Welcome, Black Hollywood Live fans. On today's Fit Club, we talk cancer, cannabis, and fitness with BudTrader CEO Brad McLaughlin. Stay tuned for more.
You're tuned into Black Hollywood Live, Fit Club.
Welcome, Fit Clubbers. We are back. Oh, nice choice. I dig it. We got in the studio Mr. Brad McLaughlin, CEO of BudTrader. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, I absolutely appreciate you being here. Again, guys, I'm your host, Shaka Smith. I'm joined by my lovely co-host.
What's up, guys? My name is T.K. Trinidad. You can find me on everything at T.K. Trinidad.
And where can they find you on social media?
At realbudtrader.com or at realbudtrader for Instagram, and then budtrader.com for our site.
Nice. So yeah, we got to talk about that and how that came about. But we got a couple of stories kind of tied to what's going on, and I guess you'll give your take on it, and we'll get into it.
Cool. Sounds good.
Okay. Yeah. The first story is about junk food. No surprise here. Junk food is tied to higher cancer.
Really?
Yeah. It's like what?
Damn.
But what's surprising about this is how they came about. The conclusion is that they used a Nutri-Score, which is the score that, and we'll kind of have the chart up on the screen soon if you guys are watching YouTube, but for those on the podcast, the score is a color and a letter, denoting low nutrition all the way to high nutrition, with A being nutritionally sound stuff and E being really nutritionally void stuff. And they found, looking at almost 500,000 people in 10 European countries, that it was significantly higher for those. Cancer was significantly higher for those that were in the lower group, and also the cancer and the people that died from cancer as well. And I'm wondering, why don't we have a system like this in the U.S.? And I'm thinking, about our food, but I'm thinking marijuana is this sort of new, I guess, this sort of new, completely new industry that's opening up. Would there be a benefit to having something like that in that industry as well?
There would, and there sort of is, like now. So some of the new rules that came out here in California in 2018, January 2018, was that all products have to be lab tested. There's redundancies. There's multiple tests that take place sometimes, and it's to make sure that the safest product is put out there on the market, like for the public. So one of the things I feel that the state of California did do right was they've taken a lot of steps to make sure that products don't contain pesticides or chemicals or whatever, they used to say, oh, this strain is good for this, or this, whatever brand is good for that, and I kind of wasn't so sure, but they've gotten so good now where they do have specific strains or specific products for specific ailments, and people are getting real benefit out of it. So it's like the industry's come a long way, and like the science, behind what we're trying to do is it's compelling. I mean, it's getting a lot better. I mean, they really got it down to a science now. So I'm excited for the future of the cannabis industry as it pertains to, the health benefits for the average user.
Yeah, I like the simplicity of this Nutri-Score. I wish they did that with our food here.
Oh, well, that's not even.
It just seems like, I guess maybe they're just somehow de-incentivized to want to let us know exactly what we're eating.
But one of the things here that I hate is that everything says organic now, and it's like
Yeah.
I feel like it's lost the specialness of the word.
Yeah.
It's like when there's like organic McDonald's, and it's like just I feel like I can't trust half the stuff on the labels.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think too, anytime you have a label that has more than a couple of things on it and there's words you can't pronounce, there's always an issue with that. And then people think, okay, it's organic, or it doesn't have sugar but it has this in it. It's just another trap, and that's why we as individuals have to kind of be diligent in taking care of what we put in our body. And also with the system with the marijuana, I think it also helps people who think that marijuana on a whole is bad. Mm-hmm. See that it's more than just the kid on the corner, the stereotype of the kid on the corner who smokes it. It has a ridiculous amount of benefits, and it's grown the right way. It's part of nature. So
yeah, I mean, the reefer madness happened. The just say no. I mean, and it just we were lied to. Like we were all lied to for the better part of almost 100 years about this plant. And it's there's people that have real problems. And they're seeing real benefits to using this. This magical plant, and it's the biggest slander PR, negative PR campaign in the history of the world. I mean, as far as I can tell, or in my opinion, and it's just. I think like through education, I mean, people are starting to kind of, it seems like there's a lot of momentum on our side. People are starting to come around, but it's unfortunate that we do, the cannabis community, like we're still kind of fighting that fight of like, hey, listen, you know, there's some education going on here. Like you need to learn or know that this product can help, you know, like when it's consumed responsibly by adults, you know.
And in that same vein, another story came out that, you know, cancer is going to kill about 10 million people this year. Looks like it's rapidly growing, 18.1 million new cases, 9.8 million people have already died, and that's in 2018 alone. And it's just on the rise. And part of it is that we're getting better with other diseases. You know, incidence of stroke and heart disease are down, and that we have an aging and growing population right now as well. And so we're having more incidence of cancer, and it seems like there are studies to show that maybe marijuana may have some effect in different forms or the other on it. What's going on in the industry now to kind of like vet these studies or like take a look at the long-term viability of it for that sort of treatment?
Well, I mean, there have been studies done that, you know, CBD oil, THC oil can, you know, stop the growth of cancer cells, you know, in some cases, or there's arguments that it can even shrink cancer cells. And, you know, to me, that's a good thing. I mean, if we can keep people from dying from cancer, I mean, you know, cancer is one of those things where I wish it would go away. You know, I wish we could figure out a way to get rid of it because it's just a horrible disease. And, you know, if this plant can help, then let's let it help, you know. And I mean, there are cases and there are studies that there's benefits to, you know, people, you know, whether it's trying to shrink cancer cells or when they're going through chemo to have an appetite because they, you know, they lose so much weight, they can't eat. I mean, there's, you know, hopefully we can do more to help more people, you know. I know I want to. You know, I know that the cannabis community wants to too.
Do you think it's more of there is help and people and doctors know that, you know, cannabis can help and they don't want to because of, you know, the it's better off to have people sick because, you know, there's more medication.
Well, the pharmaceutical
there's more money
industry,
right.
There's that.
Do you think there is that conspiracy theory that, you know, people do want more people sick, or do you think it's people are playing the safe side of things and they're not so sure about cannabis and they're doing the studies?
I think part of it's that, you know, there was a New England Journal of Medicine poll amongst, you know, doctors here in the United States, and I mean, a majority of them feel comfortable recommending cannabis, but they've also said that, you know, they would like to learn more about it. So there's got to be some continued education for doctors so that if they're recommending cannabis, they're not just kind of, hey, you need cannabis. I mean, there's more to it than that, you know, and there's different strains and different products for different ailments. So, I mean, there needs to be a continued education process with doctors, but at least they're open-minded enough where it's like they took an oath to do no harm. So if this plant can help, I want it to help, you know. I mean, you know, I wish Roger Goodell would take that same, you know, oath to do no harm, because I feel like, you know, there's sports athletes and professional athletes that are under a ton of pressure that, you know, they got a choice between painkillers or Vicodin or whatever. They could take, you know, use cannabis or CBD oil. I mean, it's just, I hope that, you know, people catch up.
And CBD is, and we don't talk about it, we haven't talked about it yet, but CBD is the non-psychoactive form of marijuana that people have found extremely helpful. And that's what we're also talking about here, not just talking about THC.
No, yeah, sure. And you know, I'm glad you brought that up because, so, you know, there's the two main components, you know, essentially in cannabis, it's like THC and CBD, and like, you know, the cannabis industry has figured out how to kind of take the CBD part out so that the non-psychoactive part, people don't get high, but they can still have the benefits from pain relief or inflammation relief or, you know, whatever. I mean, I use a hemp-based protein powder from Trader Joe's. I mean, I'm into this stuff. Like, I put the hemp seeds in my protein shake in the morning, too. Our business cards at the office are made out of hemp paper. You know, like this shirt's a hemp, cotton, whatever, blend. You know, so it's like...
You're living it.
So there's more to, like, just cannabis than it's like, well, let's... You know, so let's smoke up. I mean, you know, that was to make movies. It's a stereotype. And I mean, this plant could save the world if, you know, we could just get people on board with it, I think, you know?
Yeah.
Do you think that's kind of happening now with a lot of states making it legal, where, you know, not only do you have...
In Canada, right?
Yeah, well, in Canada, it's a huge thing. But it's like, do you think that's kind of, we're on our way to that, where a lot of states are kind of... Now it's legal. Now the perception of it is changing slightly.
I'm the most optimistic I've ever been. Like, I've been in this business, you know, officially for 3 years and unofficially, you know, when I was a kid, selling a bag of weed forever, you know? So, I mean, you know, but since I've been involved in this industry for the last 3 or 4 years, I've never been more optimistic. I mean, you know, we have an administration without picking a side that seems to indicate that they're not overly concerned with cannabis. The president's indicated that if there's a bill making its way through Congress for medical cannabis and something for our veterans so that they could have safe access to cannabis, and he's indicated if it's a good bill, he'd be willing to sign it. So we have momentum on our side. There's 30 states plus Washington D.C. that have some form of legal cannabis, and there's states coming on board. Like Texas. Shout out to Texas. I was just doing Cannafest there, big party, 100,000 people.
Oh, wow.
100,000 people in the cannabis community out there, trying to just have a good time, but also, create awareness for, the fact that they still don't have safe access to cannabis. But, people that have seizures or, have some, serious issues can access it, but only in, those, rare cases. But, just when, in November 2016, when all those states came online for us, that now had some form of legal cannabis. You saw it, Mexico has medical cannabis now. They're pushing for recreational cannabis. Other countries, cannabis started coming online, and there's some form of legal cannabis. So we have momentum on our side. It seems like the conversations change, or it seems like the thought surrounding cannabis has changed, and it's exciting. And I think that in a short amount of time, I'd say in the next 12 to 18 months, we'll probably see some sort of change as it pertains to cannabis at the federal level, which will open it up to, we'll probably see every state, have some form of legal cannabis.
And get more research and more testing.
Research and maybe some, convictions overturned for, a guy growing a plant in his closet and now he's doing, time in jail or prison or whatever, so I think there's hope, and I'm very optimistic, and I'm excited, for the future for cannabis.
Yeah, but the downside, of course, our next story is that there has been an increased usage amongst children, and so they're saying 11.1% students have vaped cannabis, which includes 8.9% of middle school and high school students, and that broke down to 12.4 high school students and 4.5% of middle school students, and this was a survey of 20,000 kids, so that's pretty significant. What does the cannabis industry say about what age people should be using cannabis, and how are they addressing, I guess, really the peril of vaping? Because vaping is really kind of what's making it more acceptable and accessible and acceptable. What's the cannabis community take on that?
So here in California, you got to be 21 years old to purchase cannabis. I think in Canada it's only 19. Because I remember we have BudTrader.ca for Canada, and we had said you have to be 21 or older in our terms and conditions, and all the youngsters up in Canada are like, oh, come on, bro, it's only 19. What are you trying to add 2 years, bro? I'm like, dude, we're not, oh, sorry. So, but I don't think anybody under the age of 21 should be consuming cannabis unless they have a doctor on board. They've got very serious issues like they're having seizures or whatever, where the benefit outweighs whatever potential harm there could be. There's arguments that people should wait till they're 25 years old to start consuming cannabis, because when you smoke and by the age of 25 is when your brain, your body is supposed to be completely developed. So by smoking or consuming cannabis, whatever, edible, smoking, it does something to the brain, it does something to your receptors, that rewires them or whatever. So it's until there's more information or research, if you can hold off and wait till you're 25, I would encourage it. And then I've read some of the studies, and there's some kind of truth to hey, let's wait for your brain to stop growing or stop developing, and then we can start doing some stuff with it. But I don't think anybody in the cannabis community is oh, we got to get them when they're young or anything like that. It's we don't want those kind of problems. We don't need those kind of problems. Kids can't go into a dispensary. They can't order it from a delivery service. But when I was a kid, we stole alcohol from my parents. It's it's a problem. Right. You could do everything in your power to keep kids from getting cannabis, and they can find it. Yeah. They can take it. If their parents are patients, or their friends' parents, or their someone, they'll swipe it. We stole. I was raised Catholic. We were altar boys. We'd steal the wine at church. I'm probably going to hell for that.
Not the wine.
It's one of those things where kids do stuff, and it's not one person in our industry is yeah, we'd really like to just get weed to kids, because you don't. It's just there's no. It's just a weird argument. We want to prevent it as much as any parent, any teacher group, any church group. We don't want kids to have access to cannabis. They need to wait till they're adults. There's real reasons. We're not just trying to be stuffy adults. There are real medical reasons why we want you to wait till you're 21, or in some cases 25 if you can wait, you know.
Yeah, I think it speaks to a bigger issue too, because you're taking the arts out of school programs, gym classes out of school programs, so now these kids have nothing else to stimulate other parts of their body other than you have to sit here and study, and that's not what kids are meant to. They're supposed to study, but not. You know what I'm saying? There's other things to stimulate their mind. So if you don't have those avenues in school, then you might go to something else that is there. Because I know people who did smoke, but they didn't smoke as religiously as some of the kids are today. Like it's a daily thing. Like I know kids who smoke like once in a while, and they went off and they did other things. Either they were studying and they were athletes, they were this or that. Now there's less of those kids doing the arts and all this other stuff. Now there's a more opening for them to do that. So that speaks to a bigger issue as far as what's happening in high schools and stuff like that, and also letting people know the reasons why versus just saying you can't do that.
So I agree with you on that. Like we need to educate kids and teenagers on like, listen, if you smoke too soon, it could rewire your brain or whatever. Like you need to really think about it before you do it. But part of the problem is too is like kids are growing up a lot faster now than when we were kids. Like we didn't have the internet when I was a kid until I think I got into high school, and then it was like America Online where you had to pay by the hour, and it's like dial-up, so you're sitting there like waiting forever, and then you're like, this sucks, it takes too long. It's like every kid has a smartphone now, every kid has access to the internet, but with that they have social media too. Like they're under more stress than probably we were. Like these kids, they're growing up faster, so it's like, how do you deal with some of the issues they're dealing with? Like they have access to all the information in the world. Like they can order anything they want online. Like we had to be so resourceful and creative when we were younger because like we had encyclopedias. That's where we got our info. We didn't have it, So it's like part of it's like I feel bad for these kids because like I don't have the answer. They're growing up so much faster and they have all this technology and access to information, but it's like they maybe, I don't want to say they're not mature enough to handle it, but it's like it's got to be stressful to be a kid or a teenager like nowadays, like worse than when we were growing up. So it's like I get why they would want to smoke weed. I get why on a Friday night or something they'd go to like a house party or whatever, the 50-yard line at their high school, like where we used to drink a beer, because it's like this high school is probably stressful for these guys. Like being a teenager is probably way more stressful than when my parents were teenagers.
I think if we got more federal dollars, if they moved it from like different schedule to be able to research it, and you could quantify, well, this is exactly what will happen to your brain, or this is exactly why you shouldn't do it, then that would resonate. But because there's not enough studies or enough money being able to be thrown at these studies to conduct them, then it's sort of this sort of nebulous, well, we know it does something to the brain, it's not good for you, hold off, but we don't have the concrete answers for them.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think that not only like the amount of research that could be done once it's rescheduled and people can really start, people smarter than me and smarter than most people can be like, okay, let's really dig in and find out what's going on. Let's really find all the applications for this, but not just for cannabis, but for CBD, for hemp, industrial hemp. I mean, like with industrial hemp, we could save the world, but it's just like, it's just time. We need more time. We need the laws to catch up with us, and then we need to start researching all the applications. I mean, there's a book, you can get it on Amazon. I didn't write it, I wish I did, but it's like 50,000 uses for industrial hemp. Like there's 50,000 different things we could do for it. It's like a food source. There's hemp concrete, there's hemp bricks. You can build houses with it. You can feed people with it. Like you can clothe them with it. Like we could save the world with it.
And you even sponsored your own study, a study with the NFL to kind of combat what's going on there with the opiate use. And so, in our other story about fitness and was about inflammation and how it can greatly reduce inflammation, CBD has been shown to help, and people are now kind of incorporating that into their recovery workout routine. And your study sampled NFL players, current and retired, and it showed that a lot of them had used marijuana, but they'd also wished it had been available to them as a substitute.
Sure, no, absolutely. So it definitely wasn't a study with the NFL, like it wasn't in conjunction with them. I mean, we presented our findings to the NFL Players Association, some of their reps, and the way that we came up with the idea for the survey was, we have BudTrader, with this cannabis platform, and we do events, and for whatever reason, former professional athletes, like they think it's cool what we're trying to do, and they think our platform's cool. So as we'd meet some of these, current and former professional athletes, they'd be like, there's these problems, there's these problems in the NFL when it comes to abusing painkillers, and it's like you've got these world-class athletes these young guys, in their early 20s that are under all this stress, they're under all this pressure, and it's like, but they can't do anything to combat it except for, well, here's prescription narcotics, opiates that are addictive and harmful, and it's like, but you can't drink, and you shouldn't be going out, and you shouldn't be partying, and you shouldn't be smoking weed, because if you smoke weed, we're going to suspend you for the year, and it's like, well, geez, like, take the painkillers, kids, but don't smoke weed and don't drink, and it's to me that doesn't make sense. It's like if the NFL or whatever professional sports cared about the athletes, if they said, hey, we need to eat dog food. Like, dog food will make us better. It'll make us healthier. It'll protect us. Like, they should be like, okay, eat dog food.
Yeah.
And it's like just the thought behind that. Why cannabis is illegal. Or you can't be using it in professional sports. I mean, it's weird to me because, like, if you're in a state that isn't a prohibition state, like, let's say you play for the Rams or the Chargers, like, well, so you live in California, so under California law, you should be able to consume cannabis. But it's like, well, no, under NFL law,
Yeah.
like, you're telling me the NFL law trumps, like,
Well, it's like an employment contract.
yeah, and it's like,
But you're still getting tested as an employee, just a regular person. There's
Yeah.
certain companies that you get tested, and you're not supposed to be having. They'll do hair tests and stuff like that. As a journalist, as a reporter for certain companies, up until maybe 3 years ago, I don't know about right now, they would take hair samples before you would get employed. So I definitely agree. There's an issue with that, because whatever you do on your off time, if it's not affecting your job, it shouldn't really matter.
Yeah.
Especially being an athlete, where if it's going to help you and benefit you to become a better athlete, like I tore both my hamstrings, and I was taking 800 milligrams at least 3-4 times a day, as far as just to combat the pain. So it's just kind of like, if there was something that was better that didn't destroy your intestines and your insides, that would make more sense. But on the flip side, as athletes, especially with the NFL, they're replaceable. There's for every player that gets injured or hurt, there's one more coming up. There's one more coming up from university. There's scouting. So I think they're behind the curve with that. I think eventually it's gonna change, but especially with the concussion thing, if they allow the athletes to take the marijuana, now the athletes get in trouble in conjunction with marijuana and drugs or whatever. Now they feel like they're going to have the burden with that. So I think that's a kind of a double-edged sword.
Who knows if it even helps concussion? Who knows?
Right.
Yeah.
So there's just so many things happening with the NFL that they're and then we have the kneeling thing too. So.
like, one of the things just about that survey we did with, like, former professional football players, current professional football players, is 100% anonymous. But when we started meeting these guys, we're like, can you take this kind of quiz or this test or whatever? And we kind of came up with some of the questions, like, with some of the guys that brought it to our attention that there's this real problem. Like Marvin Washington, former NFL Super Bowl champion. He's a big cannabis CBD advocate now. Shout out to the great Marvin Washington. He's a friend and mentor of mine. Some of the questions are like, have you ever use painkillers for something other than what it was prescribed? And, like, everybody said yes. So it's like for sleeping, for stress, for whatever, And it's like, okay. And there was another question, like, did you ever get your painkillers from someone other than, like, a doctor or a team doctor? Like, the word we used in the survey was, like, private party.
Yeah.
Or, like, from someone other than a doctor. So, like, it's essentially like a street pharmacist or a dealer or someone else besides a medical doctor brought them their Vicodin or whatever they need to use, or Percocets, Percodan, Oxys, Roxys, whatever, and it's like, these young guys, like, aren't getting the pills from the team doctor. Yeah. Why, dude? Why are they going out into the community like, hey, I need, like, Vicodin?
Because they're getting addicted to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, not just that. It could be because they need more, or because, they're addicted to it, or the pain's getting more, so they need more, or maybe they're using it to combat stress or anxiety or whatever, but it's just like, I don't want that to happen, Like, I'm a big football fan, it's like one of these guys that's my heroes, like, he has to go out and score painkillers, like, to function. That breaks my heart. Like, these are real problems, and it's like, for Roger Goodell or whoever just to put their head in the sand, like, well, my doctors say that it's all BS. Like, well, dude, no, you're full of BS, dude, and so are your doctors if they really say that there's no benefit.
Yeah, I think hopefully, I guess, at least when it comes to the NFL in particular, I think maybe that culture hopefully will change sooner than later.
They're behind the curve with a lot of things.
In my opinion, like, the NBA will declassify it or allow it before, like, the NFL will. I think that Goodell is just like, he's digging in, like, nah, man, you guys ain't getting this. Like, Adam Silver, the commissioner of the the NBA, indicated, like, he's not really, like, that concerned about it. I feel like baseball too, like, or like hockey. I feel like those kind of sports, like they don't care as much. Like for some reason, like the NFL, they call it the no fun league.
But
It's like,
I think because they kind of view themselves as like America's sport, so it's sort of that they feel the importance of kind of embodying American sports in total. And
But
so I
they're-
think that might be
Yeah, and
why
the fines too,
there's
that
feeling.
they're making so much money on those fines too.
But that shouldn't preclude them from
Right.
leading
And,
the way on
well,
something.
I don't. It's the NFL's behind on everything. Yeah, they're definitely the other organizations you said are definitely gonna allow it more than before the NFL does.
But one thing you guys are a little bit ahead on at BudTrader, I saw you guys actually decide to hold a yoga fitness class. What was the
Yeah.
inspiration behind that, and sort of how have you guys melded that and kind of reached out to that sort of community that is more health-based users of CBD and THC?
So I think it's because part of the stereotype that we were trying to overcome, in the last couple of years was like the couch potato, like stoner, like mentality.
Munchies and-
Yeah, it's like everybody that smokes weed just plays video games all day and they're not motivated and they don't exercise, they don't care about themselves. Well, no, that's not true either. It's like there's people that are in like phenomenal shape that use cannabis, they use CBD. Like there's people that run companies. Your lawyer, your doctor, your accountant, like. If you ever go into a dispensary in California, like sit there and watch the people that come in. It's not college kids, because dispensaries are expensive. Because the state gets their cut, the county gets their cut, the city gets their cut. There's all these taxes that have to be paid. Like it's kind of expensive to shop at a dispensary, right? The average person you see in a dispensary is like 35, 55-year-old male, professional, dressed professionally. I mean, these are the guys that are really kind of like stressed out, but have some dough to be able to go in and like buy it from a dispensary. So it's like, I don't.
Maybe that's what needs to be shown, because I remember my shock was when I was training a lady, and I think she's like a big time marketing lady, and she was like, oh yeah, on the weekend we go and smoke weed, and I'm like, what? And so I think that maybe for the folks who are nowhere near it and they just see the stereotypes, to showcase the fact that you have business people, you have people like, I don't know, Chelsea Handler is probably the best indication because she can rub people the wrong way, but you have different people and different elements smoking marijuana, not to do, I just want to get the munchies. So I think it's definitely, maybe there should be a campaign kind of showing that, opposed to the other stuff.
What's one thing I think is cool is like, so the reason I'm so passionate about cannabis is like, I have issues, whatever, like anxiety, stress, OCD, whatever. And there was a point in my life where it was like, well, I trusted all these doctors and these specialists and these experts, and I took all these medications and stuff that probably did more harm than good. But it was like, I started to experiment with cannabis, and I started to experiment with high levels of CBD, lower levels of THC, microdosing, things like that, where I could manage anxiety or stress or OCD or whatever. And it was like, I found more benefits from cannabis than I did from all these pharmaceutical drugs. And I was like, it kind of opened my eyes to like, well, I've been lied to this whole time about cannabis. Like, what else are these guys lying about? Like they're saying these pills are good, but the plant from the ground is bad.
Yeah.
Now that I've taken the Pepsi challenge and I've tried both, like they're wrong. But what's kind of interesting is like, so my godfather had to get his knee replaced, and his doctor told him like, I don't want you to take the pills. I think you should think about cannabis like for the recovery.
Oh, wow.
Which was like interesting. And he's just a normal guy, and he's a civilian, whatever, so he's not in the industry. So he's like, what do I do? Where do I get it?
Yeah.
Do I get it from you? And I'm like, well, no, you get it, you can go on the site, and it tells you where all the deals are, and there's a bunch of different sections. And he's just like, but I took him to his first dispensary, and he was like nervous, him and his wife, like, we went in, and I was like, there's nothing to be nervous about. It looks like a Whole Foods or like an Apple store. It's all bright, and someone like tells you everything you need to know, and they're all patient, and they answer all your questions. Like, it's, to me, I think it's fun going to the dispensary. It's like a kid in a candy store, but it's like, it's interesting that at least like that's happening. It's like, so
That's
I feel like we're
available.
making some progress, because it's like, hey, I don't want to give you painkillers for your knee replacement, but I do want you to like call your godson who's kind of wacky or whatever, and have him take you to the dispensary for the first time. So I feel like we're making
There's so
progress.
many options too. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not just the smoking stuff that everybody thinks about. The gummy bears and the the brownies and the don't have the lollipop in one sitting.
Oh, so you seem well versed.
No, I just had the lollipop, and you need to go with somebody who knows there, or go to a dispensary that can break it down for you. They're very knowledgeable because, again, I had very bad experience with lollipop. They're just.
I think it's cool too because you have your bud tender at the dispensaries now, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like your bartender at a bar, but it's more than that because I go to a handful of dispensaries, but I always kind of know the bud tender there, and they kind of know what my problems are, and so it's you build somewhat of a rapport, and you can kind of tell them and if it's your first time, they'll be like, hey, what's going on with you? They talk to you, they ask you questions, and it's like a friendly pharmacist.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like a friendly pharmacist, and they'll be like, hey, I think you should try this, or I think this is working, we should stay with this, and it's neat, and I think it's only going to get better. I mean, whatever, 2015, 2016, maybe the bud, in my experience, the bud tenders weren't as good, but I feel like they're getting so good now, and it's God bless them for taking the time to kind of educate people, and like you said, when they go in there's so many different products, walk them through everything, and that's one of the exciting things too, is there's so many cool products that are coming out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see what it looks like on the horizon, but before we go, we do have to give you our Fit Club 5. So these are going to be our 5 rapid fire questions so the viewers get to know you and just hear your answers.
Cool. I'm ready.
Okay, let's see here. I feel like we need to have music. We'll do that next time. All right, so Fit Club 5, last person you text.
You guys, because I was stuck in traffic.
There you go. Dream dinner guest.
Elon Musk.
Oh, especially since he. Okay.
Elon, my boy
and then
Elon.
Favorite junk food.
Man, I'm on a goldfish crack, the little goldfish, or a Cheez-Its too.
Forgot about those.
The little, if it's orange and it's got salt on it, I'm into it.
I'm vegan. I haven't had those in a while.
$1.99 at Ralph's.
They gotta have some vegan Cheez-Its somewhere.
They do.
I feel like a kid too. I'm I need my Cheez-Its. I get them in the little bags, so then it feels like when you're a kid,
those
the
are
lunch.
so good.
Yeah.
If you were on death row, what would be your last meal?
I like nachos, man. I got a nacho whole. I got a whole recipe. So you gotta get the shredded cheese, but then you gotta get refried beans or pinto beans in there, and then
some chicken on there.
A little chicken or some steak, or maybe both if it's my last meal. I might just ask for
crab on that.
But I don't want sour cream. God, no sour cream, but maybe some guacamole.
Yeah, of course.
You gotta get the guac. I know it's extra. I mean, but I'm cool with that.
The last one.
It doesn't matter. It's not gonna cost you.
Yeah, right. My last meal.
There you have it.
Nice. Well, just want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I had a lot of fun, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we didn't have Ian McCall on this time, but I love that you're such an advocate with athletes that are kind of, I guess, blazing the trail, no pun intended, when it comes to this part of the industry. So it's just good to have that representation.
Absolutely. I mean, it's interesting. There's a lot of people from the music industry, and there's a lot of current and former professional athletes that seem to be so supportive of the cannabis industry, the cannabis community, and what we're trying to do at BudTrader. And it's, I don't know why we're so lucky to have that much support, but it's just, I try not to question it. When pro athletes or we did a Comic-Con event over the summer. The great Chief Keef was like, hey, I want to come. I just want to come. I want to perform. I was like, hey, I really appreciate it, but I don't think we can afford you. He's like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just coming because I like what you guys are doing. I want to support you. So it's I'm not going to argue with the great Chief Keef. I'm like, absolutely, sir. Yeah, we would love to have you.
It's a movement.
Yeah, so appreciate everybody's support, and we'll keep pushing. I mean, we'll keep pushing. We'll try to save the world, and I think we save this plant, we save the weed, we're going to save the world.
Well, on that note, we'll see you guys next week. Again, my name is Shaka Smith. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at Shaka Strong.
You can find me on everything at TK Trinidad.
And where can they find you again?
BudTrader.com and at Real BudTrader.
See you guys next week.
Thank you.
From executives Keven Undergaro, Dario Kristen, Tiana Hobson, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us. info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I am the official voice of Black Hollywood Live, Scipio. Instagram me at KingXOBay. Thanks for tuning in.
Hollywood Redefined.
The views expressed here are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.